When Charlie Marengo's doctor asked him if he had ever been to the Grand Canyon, he said no. The doctor was trying to make a point. If that's on your bucket list, you might want to go ahead and make those plans now because you don't have much time. Diagnosed with cancer and given about 7 months to live, Charlie and his wife Sherri set out on a journey, not across the United States, but a journey deep into their faith and love and legacy. We're going to tell their story today on this edition of Faith in Photos. Using the art of photography to make the most of our Lord and to share His gospel with others, this is Faith in Photos. A few months ago, Lindsay and I traveled to South Mississippi to meet and talk with Charlie and Sherri Marengo and to hear their inspiring story firsthand. Their journey is a powerful reminder that even in the times of uncertainty, God is still at work. He is still guiding, comforting, and revealing His purpose in ways that sometimes we don't always expect. So without further ado, here's that interview. We hope it touches your heart as much as it touched ours. So I'm joined today by Charlie and Sherri Marengo and little Millie right here. She's jumped up into the thing, so she'll be with us. I don't know that she'll share much, but she's here for moral support. So you guys, and first I want to just kind of point out that you're a public information officer for Forest County?
Forest County, which is, it surrounds Hattiesburg and Petal.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have that in common. Oh, because that's
kind of how we met.
That's actually how we did meet, being PIOs. And Charlie, you were in car sales.
I was in the automotive business almost 30 years and finally got 3 retirement jobs, and I just retired again from the 3rd job, and now I just need a day off.
I get that. And Millie, you're just living the life, right?
Just living the dream.
Yep, that's it. So, we had mentioned in the intro that you had a diagnosis, but prior to that point, you guys meet, fall madly in love, something about a grocery store. What was that?
Fate.
I had been in broadcasting. Well, I had just retired in 2020 from like 20 years straight radio. And I was actually doing, I was actually doing like an on-location remote for a radio station in a grocery store. And he came in, he was a bread man. And we just kind of locked eyes and we had a couple of words. And then he went this way and I went that way. And I left a note on his truck. And then 2 weeks later, he called me. I was like, I don't even remember doing it, but we didn't know each other's names. And then we got married about 6 months later.
And you mentioned, Charlie mentioned ministry. That's another thing we had in common. I was a youth pastor for a long time. That's what you did. You were bivocational?
Yep. The best summer I ever spent was doing that as a youth minister at Winona, First Baptist Church, Winona.
Yeah. Your faith, you were Edwin Carey. You got into youth ministry. So obviously we're believers. When you guys got married, you had one, you blended your family. The same thing Lindsay and I did. Mm-hmm. I had 4, she had 4. We blended our family, the youth ministry backgrounds. And you guys you had family, you had a career, you had life, all is going well. Tell me about what was the deal with your diagnosis?
December 8th, 2008.
2008.
Yeah.
It's like hitting a brick wall.
Oh, I bet.
The next thing you know, you wake up one morning and you just feel like there's nothing good about that day. 3 days prior, my first grandchild was born from my daughter up in Flowood now, was where they live, but previously they lived in Cleveland. And we had to drive all the way to
Clarksdale.
Yeah, Clarksdale. King's Daughters Hospital.
Wow.
And that's where Lexi Claire was born. And on the way back, we got as far as Vicksburg, and I told her, I said, something's wrong. Road just keeps moving like this. And
really?
The horizontal part of it.
He couldn't see
wobbling all over the place. No, something wasn't right.
You getting some pressure up there?
Yeah.
The day before, when we were waiting, because it was a very long process waiting for the baby to be born, we spent a lot of time just, you know how you do. You just walk the halls of the hospital. You just hang out, you know, sit on the floor a lot. And we had our other granddaughter with us, and she was about 10 at the time, I think.
Yeah.
9, 10 years old at the time. And so the whole time we were there, though, he was so sick with this headache, and he wouldn't let me stop a doctor that kept walking by. And I was like, we need to have somebody at least look at you. And he goes, no, we're here for the baby. So he was sick with this, like what we thought was just a migraine for that whole 24, 48-hour cycle. And then we got in the car to come back, and that's when he said that things were moving that shouldn't have been moving. And still, when we got back, that was a Sunday night, he still waited until the next morning.
Monday, I drove myself to work.
Drove himself to work.
14 miles from here. And I got to work, and I walked in, and I sat down at my desk, and next thing you know, I just felt all the pressure in my head. And my ears started ringing, and my eyes got blurry. And I'm like, God, I think I'm going to die.
So what did he do? Drove himself to the
I
hospital.
drove myself to the hospital.
I'm glad you made it.
It's really crazy because where was I? At the TV station? No, I was at the radio station.
At the radio station.
Yeah. Because I was at the TV station the first time he made one of his little emergency room trips.
And
But yeah, we just thought, I mean, half the family was in the emergency room with him, and we thought it was just, you know,
I had a sinus headache.
he thought he had a sinus infection, and it was just so much pressure on his head. And you can see the pictures of him holding the newborn baby, that his eyes were barely open and his forehead just looked like he was like a lot of pressure.
How long until you found out what it was?
The
CAT
day
scan?
after.
Yeah, first off, I walked in, and I already knew the ER physician in charge. Very good friend. Bought cars from me. That's a good friend. And I get in, and he tells everybody, stop what y'all doing, get this man the CAT scan right now.
Oh, wow.
And I said, fastest anything that ever happened. He comes back, and I said, I'm going. He said, no, you're not. You're staying. We found a tumor, so you're fixing to meet somebody. And
Oh, wow.
so by Wednesday, they did the surgery. You go from Monday, Tuesday, you get to Wednesday. All of it's a blur, other than just knowing the days. There's so much
He's
that
on
goes
the line.
on,
He
you
does
just
not
don't even
remember.
remember.
I mean,
And,
the entire family was there. I mean, all of us, you know.
So what was the diagnosis? Kind of.
Thursday, I'm still wrapped in a turban, and I decided to feel like $1 million. I could see clear. I didn't even have my glasses on. I felt good. Didn't have a headache. And I'm on the neuro floor where nobody walks. And I decided I'm going to walk. I get to the nurse's station, and they about face me in a heartbeat. So I obey.
Right.
And I go back to my room, and the following day, we got the pathology back, and the neurosurgeon walks in, and his physical manners just tell you a lot.
Mm.
In other words, when somebody doesn't feel good about something, you can tell by their posture,
Right.
which I'm probably more in tune with now after having gone through so much physical
Mm.
and emotional. If I see someone with a limp, I know something caused that. There's a
Right.
reason. It's just part of what life throws at you. And he comes in and sits down, and I said, so what's the news? He says, it ain't good.
Mm.
You ever been to the Grand Canyon? What did he ask us?
Really?
Yeah.
I know it seemed like I was asking you, didn't it?
That's wow.
Yeah, it makes you just sit there, and I'm like, what
And it
does
was
he
just
mean?
like part of the conversation. And he said it was he said it's the most rare but aggressive, deadly form of brain cancer on Earth. And nobody lives more than 6 months to a year. He said, so from the pathology, from the size of the tumor, from the location of the tumor, it's looking about 7 months. So I would suggest that you go ahead and start getting your affairs in order and get your family together and make your arrangements to, do what you need to do. And so, of course, we're just all sitting there totally shocked, and there wasn't a whole lot we could say at that point.
You don't know. You don't know.
You
what
don't
to do.
know what to do at that point. You just kind of sit there, and you're like, okay, But then I turned right around and I said, and I looked at him straight in the face. And I said, I don't accept that.
Mm.
I don't accept this. 7 months that's not happening. And of course, he's medical, he's analytical, he's science, and I'm not any of those things.
Right.
I am super right brain. I am super, I disagree with you.
Right.
I'm going to continue to disagree with you. I'm going to take it to the church. I'm going to take it to my friends. We're going to pray about it. And I'm just going to say, you have your little science over here, and I'm going to have my big God over here, and we'll see who wins.
Right.
And we saw who won. So,
So basically, you went from the mountaintop of, hey, I've got a grandkid, to just days later finding out that the doctor's saying, yeah, you don't have much time. I'm sure people watching this would be going through their head of, what would I do? What would I feel? What would I think if this happened to me? And I know you already said, I don't accept it. You're a fighter. I'm gonna fight through this. What are you thinking? I mean, is this overwhelming, devastating news?
It really is. Because I mentioned that in the book. Nobody gives you, here's what you do. Here's how you handle this. It's not like you get an owner's manual. How to deal with cancer. Here's your owner's manual.
yeah.
It's not there. And what I've discovered after all these years, which has been 16 come December,
Wow.
what I've discovered is that anybody that hears the word cancer, the first thought you have is,
I'm going to die.
so.
Yeah.
No, that isn't what you think. No, you go, I'm going to die.
Right.
Because that's what you think. How do you prepare for that? We've met so many people that's asked that question over and over again. And I didn't address all of it in the book, but I'll tell you what, a lot of experience has happened since we wrote that I've got right over here in about 4 journals through just life experiences with other people.
Right.
And the stories that they tell will absolutely just catch your breath and make you realize how you're not alone in all of this. There's all of us. Fact of the matter is, most people don't want to talk about it. They just want to avoid it. They don't want to hear all this.
Right.
She didn't take that approach because she's just one of these kind of people that just says, oh, no, you've been a fighter.
But she's got a lot of red in her hair, too.
Yeah, I can
That's
put
a
the warning label.
different ballgame. Right.
That's the warning label right there.
That's it.
I'm the person that, and I guess it definitely did me good when I was an investigative reporter, that I ask a million questions. I ask all the questions. Sometimes I get the look that I'm asking too many questions. But if I don't have all of the questions with all of the answers, then I can't make a decision,
Right.
and a knowledgeable decision about which direction to go with whatever the situation is.
Right.
And so, of course, I grilled the doctor. Of course, I grilled everybody. I needed to know everything. And then once it was, well, I don't know, he went 3 years on chemo.
That day, I remember, this just came to my mind. There's a whole lot that's fuzzy. It's a good thing we're doing this.
Good thing you wrote it down.
Yeah. That day, I'm sitting there, and we'll both give us a minute, okay? Finally, I said, "What do we do now?" He was like, "Well, we have some other physicians." I said, "Well, get the experts in here then." So that day, 2 people showed up, radiologists, super guy, super. I thought he was Israeli. He's Egyptian.
Right.
They're not the best of friends. But it was really cool to meet somebody who's actually here, practicing right here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, who decides to bring his expertise here. And even though he got all the tumor out, you still live with that possibility that
Right.
all you have to have is one small cell that gets free, and next thing you know,
Right.
it wreaks havoc inside your brain. The only good thing about having a glioblastoma is it can't go anywhere else. if there's such a good thing. But
But if it's loose in the brain, then it's
it's like on fire.
pouring water on the floor. It just goes.
Wow.
I mean, there's no, and it can start with one little tiny cell, which is why he was having PET scans. It's like a PET scan is almost like, well, just pump me full of, syrup, and then whatever lights up, that's a cancer cell because cancer feeds on sugar.
Right.
And so a PET scan is basically they're putting sugar into your body to see what sparkles.
After 6 months, here I am almost at 7, right? After 6 months, my oncologist says, I want to order a PET scan. I'm glad you brought that up.
Okay.
Let's just see. So, well, I am missing a whole lot up here. So
We have some great
we
jokes
get the
about
PET
that.
scan, and she says, you don't have to worry about it for then. So I'd already been on a protocol of a cancer drug that was developed out of Israel
It was developed specifically to fight
for
glioblastoma.
glioblastoma.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that was available at the time. There were other things that were being processed for FDA approval in clinical trials all across the world, especially in America. And they hadn't come out yet. And unfortunately, the clinical trials are based off of folks who are really all the way so far gone. And those are the only ones that usually qualify for clinical trial. And you think to yourself, why wouldn't they use someone that's a lot healthier? But they don't. It's almost like the last hope for somebody.
Right.
And so I got on that protocol and I stayed on it. Didn't bother me a bit.
Had radiation on the
I
spine.
had radiation on
Went
the
through
spine.
everything. And
Came
it-
through it all, and I went in after 3 years of being on the chemo pill. I went in and I talked to my oncologist. I said, I want to get off of this.
we
But
asked
see,
why, if there is no cancer after 3 years, no sign of any cancer, why is he still taking this, putting this chemical in his body?
Right.
And they were like, well, we've never had anybody that lived, and we don't know what
We
to
don't know
do.
what to do with you.
We're not sure. We're just trying what we're trying because we don't really know what to do with you. And I was like, well, in that case, then we're done.
Yeah, take me
We're
off.
done.
It taught me one lesson that I think goes all the way back to what you initially asked. What does someone do when they have a diagnosis? First off, you have to learn real fast how to think fast
Yeah.
if you have the ability to do that,
Right.
but also be more proactive about asking more questions. Have someone by your side that's your support.
You need to
group.
have an advocate, somebody that's
Yeah,
going
right.
to stand up for you when you feel like you just don't have anything left to stand up for. And I've had to be his go-between several times with medical personnel, just because they would like to put their wishes up against what you feel is necessary. And I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Right.
No, there's no reason for this. If you can't answer all my questions, then we're just not
Right.
doing this. And some people would disagree with me a little bit on that, but I mean, it was me trying to protect him. Okay, then the best way to tell people is just write it.
Sure.
So that's when we wrote the book. And it had been 12 years at that point.
Really.
And if you look in the book, I'll tell you, it was not easy because we had to go back and relive a lot of what we went through.
Right.
Extremely, extremely comprehensive from beginning to where we are now.
The book is 12 years after 7 months to live. The faith to fight a terminal brain tumor. And you guys have pictures in here. You got, as you said, notes from all. Look, if you are a family member is dealing with something like that, this is a great resource, and you can get this on Amazon.
Booksamillion.com, several local bookstores in the Hattiesburg, Laurel area, but also I think what is that, BarnesandNoble.com.
Oh, mercy.
So yeah, you can get it digital, but it's not great on digital. It's really better for paperback.
Right.
And that is his. I'm a picture taker, just like you.
Good.
I'm a photographer. So this is Charlie in the, believe it or not, in the hospital chapel. So
You know, we serve as believers. We understand
Yeah.
that we serve a sovereign God. And he orders our steps. He lets us go through things. It's all for his glory.
Yeah.
Everything that happens to us, that's why we're here on this earth, is for his glory. And whether you live through it or whether your suffering and your faith goes to show others, it's all for his glory. And I understand a lot of people that are outside the church won't quite get that, and it may sound rough to them, but that's why we're here.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting that you
We've
say
had to
that, folks.
pray our way through this.
Oh, yeah.
Folks outside the church, I think more often than not, because we are believers inside of our own congregations, we build a wall around ourselves. And if we have something happen to us like this, how many people sit quietly and suffer quietly
Oh,
Yeah.
no kidding.
and never say a word?
Right,
Look, it's not a sin to be sick in church.
right,
This is where we're supposed to actually share and get better.
Yeah.
That's where we connect.
right.
That's where we can lock hands and lock knees and pray together.
Thank y'all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Look, go find the book. Go find your Bible. Make much of God. Spend time in His Word. Spend time. Go to church. And while you're at it, if you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel. Turn on your notifications. And that way, every time I drop a brand new video, you're going to know about it, okay? Y'all keep taking those pictures, but always keep your focus on Him. And we'll see you in the next one.